Aloha and welcome to the Embodied Healing Self podcast with your host, Jen Mons. Each week, join me for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around embodied healing and awakening to your soul's purpose. Thank you for listening in. Aloha, friends and family. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. So this week, we're going to dive into the topic around it's one thing to speak your truth, but how much more powerful it is to live it, embody it, and be it. And what I notice is that those who really embody their truth don't have to speak it or convince others. Because if there's integrity with your word, then you already are that truth. I was inspired to dive into this conversation around recent events globally, with the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, but also just noticing in my own personal life and how much we have been talking about the importance of taking action. And for some people, taking action is speaking their truth. And I think that is a really healthy way to express where we are, to take action, to move forward, and that for others, it's to lead by the being rather than always the doing. And that both offer different pathways and both are equally necessary for change. And in fact, we as individuals and a collective are always going to find ourselves in a constant state of flux between the being and the doing. If we are living in alignment from a healthy place, we will always find ourselves living in that flux. So what I notice is that sometimes the over speaking of something that we strongly believe in takes away from the essence of actually embodying it. And so today I thought we would talk about how to recognize when we might be out of alignment with embodying our truth, or when someone else might be out of alignment, so that we can walk through life with healthy discernment on who we choose and allow their words to guide or influence us, because I think that's a really important awareness to have in our own personal space, right? Many people right now are feeling, and in fact, the listeners on this show, you're here because you want to hear a perspective around something that we're dealing with in life. And sometimes what we can find is that there are a lot of people saying a lot of things, but they're not doing or being what they say. And I'm a person who deeply values honesty, truth, dignity, integrity, and that includes with my word. So if I'm going to choose to say something, I'm going to spend a lot of time, most of the time. Now, everybody is human and nobody's perfect, but my intention is to always, before I give my time or energy or words to people, or before I share them like I do on this show, I sit with them from a place of noticing, is this in alignment with me? Am I the person to share this message, and does it have to be right now? And really just noticing and asking those questions before I speak or share something. Now, sometimes we all know that social media can be a dumping ground for emotions, and I have done it myself as well. But I really invite you, the listeners, and all of us to take radical responsibility for ourselves before we choose to speak, in doing the personal inner work, allowing yourself to process and feel emotions, knowing if you're feeling pulled to something one way or the other, too much attachment to it, because you're attached to the feeling good, you're attached to feeling connected, you're attached to feeling accepted, you're attached to feeling like you're part of a tribe that feels the same way, or if you're attached to a fear or an ego or the need to protect or defend yourself, all of those attachments are ego agendas that are coming from an unhealthy place. So what I have noticed is when we speak from a place of the need to make others wrong, then we are out of alignment. When we speak from a place of needing to be heard and recognized, we are out of alignment. When we speak from a place of something to prove ourselves, we're out of alignment. When we are speaking from a place of being defensive, we're out of alignment. When we speak to make others wrong, or even if we're maybe not aware of how other people are feeling, we're out of alignment. When people get hurt. Now, this is a tricky one because although I do believe that we do not have to take the responsibility for how other people feel, it is our responsibility to speak in a way of being conscious on how what we say lands for other people. So having that 360 awareness of just noticing that if I'm attached to my idea or belief or opinion that everything is this way and this way is the right way, then what does that say about the people who are in the other belief? And what I know for myself over the years, coming from a place of, in my earlier years, always feeling the need to prove or defend or speak or, really have this fierceful, empowered way of speaking. There's a difference in delivering the message from a place of proving something and a place of knowing something. And so that's what I invite you to consider, is that the embodiment is a place of knowing. Oftentimes, what I see is that people who spend a lot of time talking about who they are, what they do, from a place of wanting you to know in every conversation that you have with them, if the conversation isn't interested in seeking your beliefs, noticing how you feel, or interested in your perspective, then oftentimes that person might not be fully embodied in their own truth, but might be on their own discovery of finding out what it is that is true for them. And they may even be having their process through the words that they're speaking through. And so I believe that the integrity with our word is important. It's a value of mine. Integrity in general. Being a good person, doing the right thing, whether people are looking or not, and just being mindful of what we say, what we do, and who we are in our own personal space. And really getting super clear and noticing, what are the shadows? What are the ego agendas? What are the fears? What are the blocks? What are the emotions that come up? And giving ourselves permission to do that work and be super clear and honest about it so that it doesn't come out in a sneaky way through our words, quote, calling people out, where I would invite people to call people in, making people feel wrong or blamed or telling them who they are or what they believe in. I think when we find ourselves doing that, then we're out of alignment. So my invitation for you is, one, to notice when you are speaking. What is the feeling in your body? I always like to think about keeping one foot in that grounded, calm space and then dipping the toe in the emotion. That's a healthy way for some people to start to explore and give themselves permission to feel. Because there is a lot of stigma in our culture around certain emotions being unhealthy, such as anger, which is a completely healthy emotion to express, as long as it isn't expressed outwardly towards others. Sadness can be seen as weakness, which is a completely healthy emotion to express. Grief, all of those. I think our disconnect with our emotions has led us to a place where we struggle to communicate effectively with people. We struggle to ask for what we need. We struggle to know our own truth because we don't spend enough time being with it, with the whole picture. And so my invitation to you is to practice noticing how you feel when you speak. If you feel calm and aligned, with nothing to prove, nothing to defend, no need to be acknowledged, no fear around being rejected, then that is a place of speaking from alignment. And the more that you do that, there's this feeling that comes through you that actually feels calm, peace, freedom, and that knowing that you don't even have to tell people because you already know that you are your truth. I'd love to hear how this lands for you or how this is showing up in your life. We're seeing currently social media as a platform where people are influencing and encouraging, and there's a lot of positive coming from it. And there's also a lot of condescending comments and making people wrong and excluding people. And so I know that I stand in a place of unity. I stand in a place of listening. I stand in a place of awareness and in my own personal journey, and then taking action. I also want to invite you to consider that if you are a person who values the integrity of your word, your truth, your dignity, your morals, your values, if this is who you are, that you might find that it's difficult to engage in conversations like that. But I want to encourage you to lean into that discomfort. You might find that most people are not in integrity with their values and their beliefs. That many people who seem to be aligned because they have this image that looks so put together, they speak it, that they actually are not. And this is sort of the shadow of like the social media, right? This is even what I struggle with is like, wanting to be positive because for the most part, I choose to be pretty optimistic, but then the balance of sharing like the real painful experiences without coming from a place of like being a victim, but using it as an empowering way. And when I do that, I always get feedback from people that just say to me, I'm so glad that you shared that because I always think you're like 10 years ahead of me. And I think, how am I going to get to where she is? And I want to come full circle with this. Comparison is, we hear it's the thief of joy. Comparison never feels good. Never. And so if you find yourself comparing to others, trying to figure out your truth, trying to allow yourself to be in the presence of others that are like you, that you think like you, to discover your own truth, to go within and allow the body to be a tool. Notice how it feels when you speak, when you're with people. If you're overwhelmed or exhausted, it's likely out of alignment. If you feel tight or resistance, it's an invitation to lean in and see if there's something that needs to be healed or if it's out of alignment. If people get hurt, it's likely out of alignment. I believe that if we follow our heart, if we stay in alignment, that the result is a win-win situation where we can see and honor people for where they are, for what they bring to the table. We can see the value in how they are different from us. We can say to ourselves and see with an open heart that just because they don't have the skills or talents or beliefs that we do, or even the values that we do, it doesn't make them less than us. It actually might make them more valuable because they can show us an expanded point of view of what we might be missing or what our blind spot might be. Because we all have blind spots and we all have ego agendas that are trying to keep us safe, that want us to feel loved, that want us to be acknowledged, that want us to look or feel a certain way, that want us to be successful, make more money. All of those things that are ego agendas that we think are going to bring us happiness, but we're still seeking outside of ourselves. So the truth is that everything that we need is already within us. And when we choose to embody that and live that and be that, then we feel and we know that we already are everything we need to be. So thank you for listening in. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Have a fantastic week with love and aloha. Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this community. I know there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and I am deeply honored that you chose to listen in and be present with me today. I love and cherish and appreciate you, and I want to invite you to join our tribe and Facebook group under jenmons.com/connect. I would also love to gift you your guide to discovering and overcoming the self-limiting beliefs standing in the way of you living in optimal health, more energy, fulfillment, and self-confidence to create an embodied, healthy, whole you. You can find this at jenmons.com/tribe. I also have one small request to help spread the love. In order for this podcast to show up in the feed of social media platforms of other like-minded people, we need reviews. So please head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review. You will also find other inspiring episodes on that page. So I personally read these reviews weekly and would love to give you a shout out and share your kind words with our listeners. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Jen Mons or The Holistic Coach with the W Holistic and Jen Mons, JenMons.com. Thank you so much and have an amazing day. Aloha.